I have never felt closer to a video game character like in my life than in that moment where I was like, I feel like I've spent a lot of my adulthood lamenting the loss of whimsy, daydreaming, role-playing, playing pretend, things that just came to me so easily when I was a kid. Like, I didn't even have to think about it. Playing a game as a kid meant getting lost in the world. And even when I wasn't playing the game, I'd be thinking about it constantly. I would be living in that world. I would be talking, acting through those characters in my head, even between gaming sessions. And the same went for reading books, watching movies and TV shows I loved too. It just felt as natural as breathing as a kid to let myself be just completely taken over by these worlds crafted by other people. Like, I remember being, I don't know, 9 or 10 years old. I was really into this series called Warrior Cats, Real Ones Will Know. And I was obsessed with that book, obsessed with pretending that I was a cat, which didn't help me in school, mind you, with the bullying, because I'd be like walking around like this. Some people do this because of the tism. Some people do this because they're gay. I'm both those things, but I was doing it because I was pretending to be a cat. So anyway, I would inhabit that world so profoundly, even outside of my time with reading the books. Like, me and my best friend, we would enact like our own stories in that world, basically fan fiction, but using our cat plushies, probably beyond the age that most people thought it was socially acceptable to do that. And I also remember sitting down to eat a meal. Like, I would eat my meal, and I used to be a really slow eater. And it was because I would spend all my time eating daydreaming, and I would be thinking about being a cat, like being in River Clan, living my life, hunting animals. And then I'd be like eating my food, pretending I was eating as a cat, which sounds really strange. But that is like the depth to which my role-playing would go. And now that I've scared all the normies away with that, this is really what I want to talk about during this video. Specifically, I want to talk about how recently playing through Baldur's Gate 3 has really inspired me and taught me strategies for how to immerse myself in a world in a similar way that I used to do as a kid. And it's been so healing. Like, I feel so just warm and happy and joyful, just like using that part of my brain again, using my imagination for things that don't matter. And I mean that in a positive way. Like, me pretending to inhabit the world of Baldur's Gate 3, treating that as like another life for myself, is not me putting out anything into the world that can be like sold or consumed. It's not something I can brag about as like a hobby that makes me look cool to my friends. Like, every time I start talking about Baldur's Gate 3 to my friends, especially like my friends who don't play games at all, I feel like everyone's just very confused about why I'm so passionate. It is my hyperfixation right now. I cannot help it. But basically, I have a couple things I've been consciously becoming aware of things I do as I've been playing Baldur's Gate 3, and also things that I've been consciously leaning into and making myself do more, realizing that these strategies were helping me immerse myself into the game further and like role play and play pretend in the way that I used to do so easily when I was a kid without having to like think about it or think about like strategizing about it. But alas, as adults, we do kind of have to be more conscious about these things because the world doesn't necessarily encourage you to engage in imaginative play, which I think is a huge loss. I feel like there's no reason to stop using your imagination for play. When you're an adult, for some reason, people assume that's what you're supposed to do. LARPing is a thing for a reason, so is D&D. And even if you're just someone who likes to play video games or read books, there is a way to do that that will let you immerse yourself in that world more and really engage with it more with your imagination. So it's not just about you consuming something, but it's more about a dance and like a collaboration between you and the author of the piece where you're both kind of constructing the world together. And I feel like there's just something so much more gratifying about that. There are going to be no spoilers for Baldur's Gate 3 in this video, so don't worry. I am going to overlay some footage of me playing through like the very beginning parts of the game, but it's a huge game, so it's really not going to spoil much at all. I will talk about things in vague terms when I give examples, but people who have played Baldur's Gate 3 probably will be able to tell what I'm talking about, but if you haven't played, you will not be spoiled on anything, don't worry. And with that, let's talk about all the ways I found myself getting carried away with my imagination and allowing myself to deeply immerse myself into the world of Baldur's Gate 3, which made this gaming experience one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had in my whole life and as an adult specifically. But one of the first things that I noticed myself doing a little bit, and then once I noticed it, I started doubling down and like consciously encouraging myself to do it, was that I was creating conversations and creating internal character dialogue myself while I was playing the game. So I would do this in my head. If you want, you could do this out loud too. But what I would usually do is I would be playing the game on my couch. And I do think it's really important for play sessions like this, if you're really trying to get deep into it with your imagination too, to like be singularly focused. Listen, I have ADHD. I like to do multiple screens of multiple things many times in my life. But I do think if you're trying to really let your imagination cook, you do kind of need to really let yourself sink into a world, and that should be for a game that deserves that level of attention. I think Baldur's Gate 3 does deserve that level of attention from me. Your mileage may vary, but like whatever game you're thinking of here to let your whimsy run away with, make sure it's a game that's worth your singular focus. Okay, anyway, back to the tip. I was scripting conversations. So for example, we'd be doing, like I'd be running around the world doing stuff with my characters and with my party, and I would just like comment on things in my head as my character, like in the role of my character, not as me, the player, but me, the character. I'll call the character my Tav because that's what the default name for your main character is in Baldur's Gate 3. But yeah, I would comment on things as my Tav, and I would also imagine what my companions would say to those things in reaction. So like even small things that weren't major enough for the characters to actually have reactions to, because in the game there's many things that the characters actually do comment on, quests that they're actually involved in, but there's also all these small little things that they don't comment on because, you know, the game writers, like they didn't put that in there. You know, they had a scope limitation of some sort, and at some point they had to stop. But we can fill in those gaps ourselves, and I think it's actually sometimes even more gratifying to do that ourselves, because it lets you start to interpret the characters and create them yourself off the page or out of the game, if you will. I also found myself doing this to justify certain things I'd be doing. So I noticed like the character I was playing, I liked to loot everything as much as possible. As long as it didn't get me in trouble, I was looting. And I also liked to talk myself into getting as much money out of a situation as possible. Part of this was inspired by me role-playing as like my character's background. Like I'm a noble, and I was like, okay, I feel like I'm a noble who hustled my way there. Like I wasn't always considered upper class, but I hustled my way into it, and that's my family's history, and I really care about money, and I like to use money as power. That's the way I was playing my Tav. And so for that reason, I was able to justify why, like, you know, my character was spending so much time looting stuff when we should actually be getting to this other more pressing matter. Like that would normally feel weird and be like an example of something called ludonarrative dissonance. That basically means if you're doing something that kind of runs counter to the narrative of the game, for example, me taking my time to meticulously loot everything in a room when actually that room is on fire and I should be getting the hell out of there. Like that would be ludonarrative dissonance between like the gameplay and like the narrative of the game. There's other types of ludonarrative dissonance too, I guess, but that's basically how it goes. So basically, in order to cover up the ludonarrative dissonance, I would make up my own reasons. So I was like, oh, I'm taking my time because my character is just a little bit obsessed with money. Like, oh my God, sorry, they can't help it. So sorry. I would also make up a dialogue for things that like weren't major enough yet for the characters to comment on, but felt major to me. So for example, like when I would be like I'd have a chat with my crush and like maybe it didn't go well because he doesn't like me yet. I would go talk to like the companions I considered my besties in the game, and like they might not actually have anything to comment on later in the game. Like as you progress your relationships with characters, like they'll have actual things to say, but I would use my imagination to fill in the gaps. So I would just like talk to Shadowheart about it and be like, yeah, he said this and it made me feel like this, and then we would just kind of sounds so mundane. I would just have conversations like that, you know, like campsite conversations, like kind of while I was wandering around camp, I would like fill in the gaps of things that hadn't been said. And it was really fun, and it just made my playthrough so much more rich. Like I was doing this constantly. I will say it really helps to, again, just like be really focused when you're playing the game. Maybe have your headphones on, maybe let anyone else know that you can't be disturbed if you want to be able to get into the zone. I know that's a huge luxury. I just want to caveat this with like, oh my God, if you have kids and you have responsibilities, like that's a huge luxury. But even if you can carve out like, I don't know, like 15 minutes, I know it's hard. Baldur's Gate 3 is a really chunky game, but let's say like you can carve out like 15 focused minutes where you know you won't be disturbed and you can let yourself sink into the game in that way. I think just knowing that you have that time and that you're not going to be interrupted kind of helps your brain start to relax and start to be able to like create using your imagination, you know, because if you feel like you're like could be interrupted at any time, at least for me, I think it's a little bit harder to sink into that mindset, because then it becomes more like I need to run around and do this quest and that quest, and it puts me in a completely different mode, which is not really good for encouraging my imaginative juices. Anyway, moving on. Going beyond self-talk, something I noticed myself doing in general was writing between the lines. And I've already been alluding to this, but just between the lines, meaning the parts where characters wouldn't say something or where the narrative wouldn't explain something, I would figure out an explanation for myself. So I wanted to talk about this as a separate point because I feel like it's not just about conversations necessarily, it's just about your internal reasoning for why things are happening, like even within your character's head. And not only that, it's also about kind of justifying the systems at play in the game. So this is definitely very related to point one, but it's just more about like the systems of gameplay. So to give you an example, I noticed that one of the characters who I decided my character was definitely crushing on and definitely was hoping to get with kept disapproving of many things that I was doing in the game, that my tab was doing, and this kept happening. And because my character was delusional / I was delusional, I decided that, okay, like the game system is telling me that this character keeps disapproving of actions, but I've decided that that doesn't matter. Like it's not like that this character actually disapproves of what I'm doing. They're just kind of rolling their eyes like, oh my God, this again. Like, oh, you're wasting your time with this again. Like, really? But it's not that serious. But it was really fun when I realized I was doing this, because I was like, wow, like this really does feel like falling in love. Like I am literally being delusional, just like sometimes we are in real life when we're falling in love. It happens to the best of us. Another big gameplay system that I would do a lot of justifying with was with reloading. So I have two examples here. One of them is also romance related, so we'll start with that since we're already talking about it. But I had the character that I knew I wanted to progress the relationship with into the game. And early on in the game, I knew that there was this scene where you could like basically choose who you would spend the night with, you know? And I was like, okay, I know who I want. And I thought I chose the perfect dialogue options to make this happen. Like I thought I had this character down, but alas, I got rejected. And then at first I was like, that's fine, because I don't want to like save scum, and like it's okay if I've been rejected, like maybe my crush will want to get with me some other time. But then I looked it up online and it said that if I don't get with this character during this time, it's never gonna happen. And the thing is, it's not that this character's approval of me was so low, it wasn't. I think I just wasn't saying the right thing. So basically what I had to do was reload and use a guide, and I don't like this. I think this is a game design flaw with the game, and I'm obsessed with this game, but like this is a little critique I have, is like, why was that such a specific dialogue tree I had to follow just to get my crush to respond to me? Why couldn't she just respond to what I was saying, like based on her personality? Because I feel like what I was saying like should have worked, but it just wasn't in the quite specific order. Whatever, I'm complaining. Also, I keep changing the pronouns of the crush because I don't know, I'm just trying to keep you on your toes. See if you can guess my crush. Like, who is my crush in Baldur's Gate 3? Anyone who watches my streams probably knows. Anyway, all that is to say, I didn't like this sort of dissonance. Like, it felt like there was a break between like me as the player and me as the character then, because I was like, now I'm reloading. This doesn't feel like an authentic like roleplay experience anymore. So in order to bridge that gap and write between the lines a little bit, I decided that the first rejection that I experienced when I didn't follow the guide online and I got rejected, I decided that that was just a nightmare that my character had. Yeah, so that was a nightmare. My character was anxious because they were up thinking about their crush and they were like, how am I gonna talk to them? Like, I want to make something happen at this event. So again, I just kind of explained that away. And I know that seems like it's like so silly, like why do you even need to do that? But I do feel like doing that just really kept me in the world instead of taking me outside of it. Okay, so I have one more example for you in terms of writing between the lines and like kind of justifying like weird gameplay systems to make it feel like it still makes sense and feels ludonarratively harmonious, if you will. There is a moment in the game where something happens and it's not clear that you're about to get into a fight. There's probably lots of moments like this, but we went and talked to this character and suddenly we were in a fight and I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared because I didn't think that conversation was going to lead to a fight. I thought that was just a side thing. It wasn't. It was a main thing. It was part of the main thing. And then So this happened and I got in the fight and I was like, cool, whatever. Like I'll try my best and whatever happens, happens. Y'all, this was the most harrowing fight of my life. Because I was telling myself, again, like I didn't want to save scum. Like as far as possible, I just wanted to honor whatever happened in the game, including the bad stuff. And characters were dying left and right. Like important, like characters. And this wasn't an honor mode run, but so I'm not talking about my companions, but I'm talking about like the side characters. They were dying. Okay. It was really bad. I had to kill some people I didn't want to kill. And I was literally like losing my mind. I was wailing on the couch. Like I was like, this cannot be my life. We have to live with this. How am I gonna live with this? But things went so south that I ended up dying anyway. Like my whole party ended up being wiped out. So I couldn't even honor, like, if I'd somehow survived, I think I would have tried to honor that and been like, yeah, that fight went terribly because I wasn't prepared, and I would have just moved on. I wouldn't have like reloaded a previous save, but my whole party died and we had to reload. So now this felt weird again. That had this dissonance inside me again, where I was like, emotional dissonance of like, oh, now I know what's gonna happen, so now I am gonna go prepare, but that feels weird because it doesn't feel like authentic to like the way my character was experiencing the story anymore. So to kind of bridge this gap, I decided like, okay, I saw all that happen because I had a premonition. Because you see, my character, they're a sorcerer and they're a wild magic sorcerer. And I was like, yeah, sometimes they just get random premonitions. They can't control it. Unfortunately, it's not like they can always like tell the future. It's like very uncontrollable. But once in a while, they will just have like a flash of like, oh shit, this is gonna happen. And so that is how I explained to myself why I knew that this big battle was about to occur, and this was why my character was going around and actually getting prepared for something that seemed like just a simple conversation and nothing was gonna happen. And I even like, going back to point one, like kind of simulated conversations in my head too between my character and the other characters in my party, being like, hey y'all, like, I know this is gonna sound really weird, but I just have a bad feeling things are gonna turn into a fight. I know this doesn't make any sense. Please trust me. I'd like to stock up on some potions and get our gear like upgraded just in case it comes true. I had my companions, like I pretended that, you know, some of them were skeptical and some of them trusted my tab, and it was a whole thing. And it just made it so much more fun. It just made it feel so much more seamless, and like it made sense with my story, and I was able to preserve the threads of like the story I was experiencing despite the weird gameplay systems of like, you know, reloading always like feels a little weird. It's like pulling you out of the world because suddenly you're the person on the couch holding the controller playing the game instead of the character inside the world. One other tiny example I think of writing between the lines is kind of like when something happens that's scripted, but you have additional context and you kind of find a reasoning for it that exists in your own head that you're kind of just projecting onto the game. I think I talked a lot about this in my previous video about Animal Crossing and emergent narrative too. A lot of what we're talking about today is also kind of related to emergent narrative, or the idea of the narrative that is created by what the player projects onto the game, not necessarily what the game is delivering to you. I mean, this whole video is kind of about that too. One other little example of this was there was this point where one character in my party was asking my crush questions, and like the game doesn't frame it as petty, it's just like simple innocent questions. But because I knew that this party member asking the questions also was into me and liked me and was asking my crush these questions, right? I was like, oh, this is a love triangle and this person is jealous because they know I have a crush on someone else. And so that's why they're asking them these really pointed questions about their approach to love in their life. So even though the game itself, to be clear, like the voice acting, the script, nothing about it felt petty or jealous, I jealousy onto it because that just made sense for my internal narrative and it made it more fun. So far these tips have been about like things you do when you're sitting down playing the game, but a lot of what helped me get super immersed in this like childlike way with Baldur's Gate 3 was actually what I was doing when I wasn't playing the game. I was doing a lot of like imagining in my head, even when I wasn't in the game. And I think that just made my experience so much more rich. For example, I'd often end a play session and still be thinking about kind of what went down in that play session and what I was going to do next. And instead of just kind of staying in that mode of like thinking about it like as a game and as a player and like what side quest will I do next, I made it a little more like fun and immersive for myself by just having, again, like conversations in my head, but this time not while playing the game, but outside of it. So for example, often like when I'd be falling asleep after having played the game earlier in the day, I'd be in bed, and instead of, I don't know, doing the other stuff I could do in bed, like doom scroll or read a book, whatever. I decided to use this time to imagine, and I did that consciously. And I think that was really important that I created and carved out this conscious time to use for imaginative play. I would basically just imagine like campsite conversations between my characters about recent events, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'd also use that as time to like have conversations between characters in my head about future upcoming choices, which was really fun and also helped me figure out what decisions I wanted to make. Because there would be several points in the story where I would step away from the game and I'd be like, I'm actually stressed or anxious about like what way this is gonna go, or like what decisions I'm gonna make, or how this is gonna play out for a certain companion character. I'd be worrying about these little characters' lives that are on my computer screen, on my TV screen, and I would take this worry and anxiety and like channel it into my imagined conversations between characters, where I would have my tab go talk to one of my best friends in the game and just like hash out a decision I was trying to figure out that was impending that I knew I'd have to make. And yeah, like I said, like sometimes the game gives you dialogue like this, but sometimes it doesn't. And so I would just create it for myself before falling asleep, or while doing chores, like while doing dishes or like doing laundry. Like I would be thinking about this stuff, and it would just make me, one, like it would help me like process my play session and just like stay with it a little bit longer, even when I was sucked up by, you know, doing mundane things in life. And it would also help me get excited about my next play session, which was always really fun, no matter how far away it was. The last kind of tip or strategy that I found myself using that I want to talk about is doing things consciously to help yourself embody the character. I think this kind of falls under the concept of player character embodiment, which is kind of the idea of just feeling connected to your character as a player, like physically, kind of like in their body. I'm not explaining this super well, but the way I wanted to talk about it here was to do with character appearance and customization and like clothing. This is one of my favorite memories so far in the game, just because it literally made me giggle, kick my feet. Like I was so excited when this happened. But basically we had arrived at a new destination, like my tab and their party, and we were about to enter like this whole new area. And I was like, okay, I feel like if this was real life, I would want like a new haircut. I want like to spiff up my outfit a little bit, because I feel like I've been gross adventuring around outside, and now we're entering this place that's a little more civil. I'd like to like look good, you know? And so I decided to like make my character in the game do what I would do in real life, which was like go get their hair done. So I changed my character's hairstyle a bit. I had them like, you know, change their makeup a little bit and their contacts. I did all that. And like I stepped away from the mirror in the game, finished customizing myself, and then I went to sleep for the night, like camped in the game, woke up the next day. I go greet my companions thinking I'm gonna show off my new haircut, my new look. They don't comment on that in the game, but like I liked to imagine that they did. And someone else in the game had also got their hair done. They cut their hair, they dyed their hair. It looked completely different. I have never felt closer to a video game character like in my life than in that moment, where I was like, babe, we're on the same wavelength. Like we literally did the same thing overnight, changed our hair, we're new people now, we're entering this new place. It was a complete coincidence. To be clear, the game was not reacting to me changing my appearance. This was like a scripted event that made sense for this character's arc in my game. But just the fact that it happened, the timing of it destroyed me. It was just like one of those beautiful coincidences that just made me so happy. And I wanted to end with that example, because that example was both about me and like what I was doing to kind of activate that role-playing part of my brain and like, you know, put myself in the character by changing their appearance and, you know, doing this and that, even though the game wasn't making me do it. Like I was doing that, but then the game also gave me something by having this like beautiful coincidence happen. And I guess the whole point of this video is like things that we can do, or ways that we can almost collaborate with a game to deepen our connection with a game's story and its characters and its world and its lore. And like, I'm not saying that games shouldn't give us more, right? Like it would be nice if in some of these scenarios that the game itself gave me like specific dialogue for all these specific things that happened that, you know, the game didn't give me, so I filled in the gaps. So one way to think about that is like that's a game design flaw, or like we should have more content, we should have more dialogue, etc., etc. And I'm not arguing against more. I will never argue against more dialogue, okay? Never. Like you'll never catch me saying that. But I've been thinking about this a lot, especially in the age of, you know, genAI and how its impact on like writing in games too, and how like I think some people see this as an opportunity for, you know, infinite content to be filled. Like now, let's just say like a new open world game is made and like all these NPCs are in it. Like every NPC could have infinite branching dialogue that reacts to you. Like that is possible with genAI and LLMs, but just because it's possible, like, does it mean that it would make our experience of playing a game better? I care most about story and character in anything, whether it's games or anything else. Knowing that a human put these elements there with intention. Like a human decided that this character should be here and have this arc. A human decided that this lore should be exposed here, and not before and not after, but at this specific point in time. This is where this lore should be explained, for example. I just don't like the idea of infinity. I think there is a beauty in the constraints and the limited scope of games, especially when they're human made. Don't get me wrong, like you need to have a game that has enough, and Baldur's Gate 3 has so much content. There's so much character stuff, so much story stuff, so much lore. So you need to have a good foundation. I'm not saying you don't, okay? But given that foundation, I do feel like I enjoy getting to fill in the gaps myself. I enjoy having to engage my brain, engage my imagination, and write the story with the game instead of simply consuming it from the game. I think there's a satisfaction that you just can't get in any other way by filling in those gaps yourself with your imagination, because that's what we used to do when we were kids. And I think when a lot of people are saying they miss how they used to play games as kids, I get the sense that a lot of what we're missing is this. It's the imagination. It's that component that a lot of us kind of unconsciously let go of as we get older, as we become adults. No one really encourages us to use our imaginations like that when we're engaging with media. It's all about consuming. It's not about creating while playing. And I feel like it's important to talk about this because it's not as simple as like, oh, if you're that kind of person, you know, go do some LARPing or play D&D or write fan fiction. I mean, all of those things are awesome. I'm just saying, like, even when you're reading a book or playing a game, there are ways you can use your imagination that I think actually greatly enhance the playing experience. And just because we've fallen out of the habit of it doesn't mean that it has to stay that way. And I think kind of consciously trying to engage your brain in this way again can make gaming so rewarding and just help you feel more in tune with that childlike sense of wonder that you had when playing games as kids. At least I feel like that's what this has all done for me with playing Baldur's Gate 3. I honestly feel like playing this game in this way has healed something in me. It's reminded me of something really important that I think I'd forgotten. I think it's actually helping me remember how to just be creative in that way again, in a way that I think is also going to help me with my writing, because I want to write a novel one day. I've been working on an idea and I've been struggling with it. And a lot of what I've been struggling with is to do with like the imaginative component, because I just feel like my capacity for imagination feels like limited because I haven't been consciously engaging those muscles in a long time. And I'm just really thankful that I've had this chance to kind of remember what that feels like again and like practice those skills again. I mean, I'm making it sound very like, you know, level up these skills and get better. But I mean, the whole point is to just enjoy things more deeply. But I'm more just interested in hearing more about your thoughts, like you watching the video. If you have any thoughts about this topic and like imaginative play and how it relates to how you game, differences between how you gamed as a kid versus how you game as an adult, I would love to know. And if you have any tips too or strategies, I would love to hear them. Or if you just have thoughts about Baldur's Gate 3, let's keep it spoiler free in the comments because this video is spoiler free. I will definitely be making more videos. I know I took a little bit of a while making this next one, but I have a lot more ideas in store, definitely lots of ideas inspired by my Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough. So if you liked this video, there will be more discussions incoming, some involving spoilers too. I might do some deep dives, so feel free to subscribe if you would like to see those, and give this video a like, I guess, if you liked it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!